Hello everyone, I'm Mikhail, co-founder of Have Halal Travel, Asia's largest Muslim and travel lifestyle platform with a reach of 9.4 million Muslims monthly. COVID has disrupted many businesses, and in response, many are seeking different avenues of growth to make up for weak demand. In the last 5 years, we've had the very good opportunity to work with hundreds of food services brands, ranging from larger brands like Unilever to homegrown brands. And we've recently seen many companies taking the leap of faith to expand overseas during this time. In fact, just in Singapore alone, there's a 7% jump in the number of businesses seeking to expand overseas from January to August this year. Today, we're excited to have Mr. John Ong, Group Executive Chairman of FT Consulting Singapore. John will be sharing how all companies can grow and go global by leveraging on the universal principles of franchising, as well as highlight pitfalls to look out for. Now a bit about John. John was a pioneer at the Franchise Development Centre, part of Singapore government statutory board in the early 1990s. And the interesting thing about him is that he took over the helm of FT Consulting in 1998 and has trained close to 1,000 franchise owners and senior executives in Singapore and in the region in the last 16 years. Please welcome John from FT Consulting.
Thank you very much, Melvin, for the introduction. Thank you, Melvin. Good morning or good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Right? I'm privileged to be able to be at this session at this time to share some experience that I had. Okay, we're talking about going global. So I just want to have this quick slide to share about FT Consulting. We ourselves have got a, I wouldn't dare to say it's a very expensive kind of a regional or global rollout, but we do have offices all over Southeast Asia, as well as one in Japan and one in the Middle East. And of course, we are in Southeast Asia's two largest Muslim markets, or Islam, or the Halal market, which is Indonesia as well as Malaysia. Now, I like to always start off the topic of franchising by sharing with my listeners, my audience, that now you have to look at franchising as that part of or one component of a toolbox that will enable your business to extend its reach anywhere in the world, be it just your home market or beyond your home market to other parts of the world. There are many methods to go overseas to expand your reach, such as through distributorship, joint venture, or in many cases, companies directly invest and own the businesses in those places. Franchising is a special arrangement where you allow another party to use your brand and your system and use it and see it as one of the tools. It's not a be-all and end-all. It's one of the tools that you flip out in the right situation when the situation calls for it, all right, and it suits you best in terms of your interest being met. Now, just very briefly, I would like to share with you some principles of franchising. There is a franchisor that contributes strategies and system, know-how to the other party who is actually the franchisee. The franchisee will actually use the franchisor's brand name to conduct its business, usually in a physical store or a physical learning center or a restaurant, and then it buys products. Sometimes it's all of its products, sometimes it's some of its products that is carried in the store from the franchisor. In exchange for those rights, for those benefits, the franchisee usually pays an upfront joining fee to the franchisor. The franchisee also pays a regular fee, the most common of which is called a royalty, usually a percentage of the revenue that is made by the franchisee. Right? There will be other components as well, marketing fee, technology fee, so on and so forth. But I don't want to confuse you with all of these jargons and fees. But just bear in mind that typically it's an upfront and an ongoing fee in that relationship. In a franchise, it's also important for both parties to know it's a joint relationship. The franchisor might have, over the years, built its own brand goodwill, experience, know-how, its own customer base. But at the time when the franchisee joins that relationship, signs the franchise agreement, it's really joint, meaning that it is not only dependent on the franchisor for the whole business to succeed. The franchisee plays a significant part too. You see actually out there in the world, many of the innovative ideas, even for McDonald's, the character of Ronald McDonald's, the Big Mac. Now all these had been ideas from the franchisee. And the franchisor adopted these ideas and then made good and applied it across the franchise network. So franchisors should look at it as a joint relationship, like a marriage, mutually beneficial. Okay, just very quickly, some I would say rather successful Asian franchises that have gone international. One of which many of you might already be familiar with, Jollibee. Actually the 24th, what you call largest fast food chains in the world in terms of the number of branches in many overseas countries, and 1,150 outlets. It started off by serving the Filipino community in these various places, but over time it has become a lot more mainstream, really all over the place in this part of the world. Osim, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Osim, but they make massage chairs, really high-end massage chairs, effective massage chairs, and a lot of health-related gadgets, that will help you maybe to manage your weight and things like that, things like that. Very successful as well, hail from Singapore, across 84 cities in the world. And they usually use celebrities to endorse their products. And they're very good in design. They're very good in the technology behind it, their massage chairs. But they work with people who will actually manufacture these chairs and these other gadgets, right? And it's one of the more successful franchises that have moved out of Singapore. Out of many of these franchises that hail from Singapore, a number of them have actually gone full scale into being halal, right? I've just flashed a few names here on screen. Some of you might be familiar if you're from Singapore and maybe Southeast Asian region, but others of you might not be because you're from further away. Just pick a few examples. Pasta Mania will be into pasta and pizzas. A chain restaurant, Fish & Co. Naturally, as the name suggests, seafood. We have got also Seoul Garden is actually table barbecue, Korean style kind of buffet lunches and dinners. Right? These have gone halal and pretty successful as well. Let's look at the next one, which is actually international franchises that have some components or some of their concepts are in the halal, cater to the halal market. We've got this here. I think these you will be most familiar with. Burger King, McDonald's. In this part of the world, Singapore, Malaysia, they are serving halal offerings, right, for pies. And Les Soy is actually a cosmetic company. They are also halal. So why am I sharing this? I just want to bring to our attention that actually having a complete concept that is halal, or to have specific food offerings or product offerings that serve the halal market, is quite it's caught on, it's getting popular, and it's proven as well. And I think that's something that many of you here will be interested to consider and embark upon. So maybe the next part of my presentation, I want to talk about if you are a franchisor and you whether or not today you already have halal offering, but if you want to go international, you want to cross borders, some of the things that you have to prepare yourselves for in order to have a successful outcome. Okay, now, first of all, it will always start with the mind. We really have to begin by, preparing your mindset, preparing the mindset of your staff, the people that will go with you, crossing borders. I've just listed a few. This is by no means exhaustive, especially if you come from a small country like Singapore. All right, some of the regional countries are also not so big. In fact, other than Indonesia, maybe Philippines, Thailand, most of us, Vietnam, many of the Asian, Southeast Asian countries are not that huge by population or by GDP. So do bear in mind, if you're going to countries that are much bigger, there is this impact on geography, geographical size, distance to travel, as well as sometimes the time zone that you have to bear in mind to support somebody from overseas. You may have to be talking to the guy, it's in the middle of your night, you're serving somebody on the other end of the world. Actually, maybe it's only the beginning of the day, something that you should be mentally prepared for, to plow into, the time, the efforts to manage, the franchisee size as well. If you're coming from a country, let's say again, I said like Singapore, all right, you go overseas, you are highly likely to chance upon very professional franchisees, multi-franchise brand owners, that are actually much bigger than yourself. Examples will be like the Central Group of Thailand, the Landmark Group of UAE. Now, these are very, very large franchisee organizations that go about going to different parts of the world to acquire brands. Right? Your own brand, the size of your own brand as well, okay, relative to the brands that they are carrying. Bear in mind those things. Bear in mind 4 seasons. If you're selling shoe, fashion wear, there are 4 seasons. You know, in Singapore it's always hot, but overseas you've got to have designs that will cater to those parts of the world. You have to adapt your concept to the different markets. I will have quite a few slides to talk about adaptation of concepts. Bear in mind, you're familiar with the local laws here, but going overseas, you need to understand, and it's not always something that you can appreciate and always be able to enforce as well. And then also this thing called the provenance theories. Some countries are very known for certain things, some countries are not. For example, you talk about wine, you think about France, you don't talk about chocolate, you can think about Belgian, you talk about fashion, Italian, food, Japanese as well. But if you're hailing from Singapore, what would be the brand that best suits you? All right, suit an overseas market, maybe education. All right, and your own country as well, wherever you come from, what's your country best known for? Something to think about as well. Right? The country brand does make a difference. All right. Physical preparations, besides the mental part, we have to talk about understanding the market, the culture, the legal requirements, getting your trademarks protected, registered. In some countries, you have to comply with franchise regulations. You have to publish disclosure of your franchise offering terms as well. Make sure you get all of those things done. So some costs will be incurred, some time will be incurred before you can start offering your franchise and signing up people to your franchisee. Due diligence on your candidates. Language and translation too. You may have to have a logo that is of a logo. If the logo has a word, the word or the tagline, the name has to be translated in some cases. Again, you have to physically go about adapting, customizing your concept as opposed to mentally being prepared for it only. Just cite some examples about adaptation across different markets. Now, I don't need to go very much in depth because I'm sure where you come from, you see a brand that you're familiar with in a certain country because you travel to the country, but when it comes to your country, it looks a little bit different. That's because the franchisor has done some adaptation to its system before franchising to your country, or whilst even along the way as it franchised to your country. Example will be Bread Talk has a transit concept in Hong Kong and mainland China, right? In Cambodia, the outlets, Bread Talk actually is a bakery. They sell, they've got a live, baking. What do they call that? A bakery in the shop, mini bakery. And in Cambodia, they have got much larger stores. In Urumqi, they have got lamb kebab buns, things like that. It's really customized to the market. McDonald's, next one. Now, McDonald's are very well known for adaptation, customization. In Japan, the drink sizes are smaller, all right, to suit the local. And then Japanese dainty, that kind of thing, food sizes. And in India, beef not sold. In Europe, beer and wine may be sold in certain outlets. And in Singapore, very familiar with Milo. We always have Milo, but elsewhere in the world, you don't have Milo, right? That's what I understood. Right? And in Singapore, they know Singaporeans love Japanese food stuff. So they have constantly roll out Abby, Samurai, Ninja burgers to attract the locals to visit them. So McDonald's is a big player in adaptation. Yoshinoya in Japan is for the blue-collar people. It's sort of like a hole in the wall for the working class. But elsewhere, like in Hong Kong, in China, in Malaysia, it's a little bit more atas, more upmarket, almost like a little restaurant, all right? Not just a typical kiosk or the blue-collar kind of hole-in-the-wall concept. Coco Curry House, we call it Coco Ichibanya. In Indonesia, it's the only one in the world where actually it has got halal, right? Entire chain that offers halal curry. Now, I talked about Japan. We've got an office in Japan. I just want to say that if you're actually contemplating entering the market, it's an interesting market. There's a lot of opportunities there. The market size expected to be 114.8 billion yen by 2020. And then, growth rate 10 to 13%. Of course, it might have been pushed back because of the COVID crisis, the delay, the postponement of the Olympics. But certainly, it's still a good potential market, for halal goods and halal products. Don Quixote have a halal section. Donkey, it's a very famous departmental store over there. A lot of Muslim travelers are moving in there already, right? As of 2019, only 160. Early 2019, only 160 halal certified restaurants. So a lot of potential to have a lot more into that country. Certification, I think they're still sorting out, right? But by and large, it's a potential market for you to consider. And finally, just one more slide to share with you is actually one company that we're very familiar with, Others Ice Cream. Very familiar with. They're very famous. They used to be very famous for their liquor ice cream. Their journey, the halal journey, they started about 3 years back. They had the central kitchen carved into the halal and non-halal section. They have got products that are halal as well as non-halal, and they have actually ventured overseas. Some are through just direct export, like UAE, direct export, primarily the halal range. And then Malaysia, halal is featured quite prominently over there. Indonesia is a franchise model, right? And then it is not exactly heavily focused on halal because they intend to offer the alcoholic options. And also, we asked them about some of the experiences, the good and the bad, or the positive and the negative. They say that really it makes them a lot more inclusive if they have got a halal offering, which means that friends who come together with a Muslim can then enjoy their products as well. The negative is that it's quite a process that they have to go through to get the necessary certification and paperwork. And they do intend to expand beyond where they are now into other parts of the Gulf region. Right? So perhaps, who knows, they may work with one of you, the audience in here, to take Others Ice Cream into your country. Right, I think that's my last slide. With this, thank you very much. Back to you, Melvin.
For your presentation.
Oh,
so now we've
okay,
arrived
thank you, welcome.
So now we've arrived at the Q&A. And we have an opportunity to ask John some very specific questions, right? So my first question is this, right? So if I'm a brand, right, and either FMCG brand or maybe a F&B concept itself, and I'm interested to franchise my brand overseas, right, maybe to Japan or Korea, and what the question is, I always hear, I heard from you just now, you mentioned in your presentation, is that franchising is a toolbox, right? And it's an option for people to expand overseas. How do I know whether my brand is franchisable, right, in that sense?
Okay. Now, we always ask the company to consider these 4 factors. We call it almost the 4 pillars of franchisability. Look at their own business model. There are 4 things you have to ask. The first thing is replicability. To what extent is your business replicable or easily cloned, cut and paste, copy and paste? Now, if your restaurant is very highly dependent on a celebrity chef, for example, and he has to be seen there, right? Then it's a little bit hard for you to clone that. Doesn't mean it's impossible, but it becomes harder. And that's the reason why amongst all the different kinds of food concepts, models, fast food, fast casual dining tend to be a lot more replicable because a lot of things may be done at the central kitchen, at the outlet level. So replicability is the one. Copy and paste stability, right? The second one is actually controllability. A lot of franchisors are very worried. If I teach the guy what I know, the tricks of the trade, will he then do naughty things? Will he then betray me? Will he do something hanky-panky? That's important to have. That's the reason why it's important for a franchisor to have a hook. I use the word hook that will be hooked onto the franchisee. In the event that the franchisee has learned all the things and then decides to go his own way, no longer want to toe the line, that's where the franchisor just need to tap the hook a little bit and the franchisee will feel the pain and then come back to you. So ask yourself, in your business, is there a hook? Are your products quite unique that only you can produce? Is there some secret formulation that only you know? All right. Are there other systemic controls that you can put in place so that the franchisee can't quite depart from you, move away from you, and do as well as you, versus if they were to stay with you? Right? And another major hook the franchisors found is really the brand. If you invest in your brand, make your brand good and well received in the local market, the franchisee find that, hey, I'd rather stay with you because your brand pulls crowd than for me to come up with my own brand and then try to work from ground zero again. So the brand investment is significantly important as well. So you've got the replicability, the controllability factor, you want to control that. Sustainability, whether your trade is in the sustainable industry, so sustainability is another one. And finally, marketability. It's the kind of terms that you offer to your franchisee in terms of the financial value proposition, the non-financial proposition. When a franchisee is in that relationship with you, do they gain sufficiently? What kind of return on investment are we talking about? What kind of benefits do they have in joining you? What kind of upgrading do they receive vis-a-vis they go on their own? Do they shorten the learning curve? So what are some of these things that will make them want to join you? How would you market to them to make them feel that it is compelling for them to be part of your family? So these are the factors: R, C, S, and M.
Wow, even got a framework for that, right?
Yeah, there is a
Yeah,
framework.
obviously you've done a lot of training, so
Yeah.
easier to remember. Okay, John, another question that I have, right? Because a lot of the audience, a number of them would actually be some of the brands that maybe are from Japan or Korea, right? And they're currently, maybe not halal certified and maybe thinking of expanding into the region, let's say Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, where it's quite densely populated by Muslims. And you did mention a few brands that have managed to cross that chasm, right? Like Subway and so on, Yoshinoya in certain countries are halal certified. So I just wanted to ask from your perspective, right? What was the process like? What would you advise a brand, right, that is thinking of expanding into these, highly, places with high Muslim population?
Yeah, I think you have hit the nail on the head. A lot of brands that want to come to this part of the world seriously have to ask themselves whether they want to, in the words of the owner of others, to be inclusive, or they want to stay true to what they always believe in. I mean, if they believe that they can only sell pork tonkotsu, all right, or they can only have pork bacon. And that's because of historical reasons, because of what the brand stands for. I think they will not do so. However, for a brand, the likes of those that you have cited, they really are going for the mass market. They may not need to be known for a particular kind of cuisine, origin of the cuisine, the brand story behind it. Then I think they find that it's better for them, and they went through the process of obtaining the halal license. Now, one thing about getting the halal license is this: the point about inclusive, I think, is quite important, because now people may think that if the population, say in the case of Singapore, Muslim population, I don't remember exactly, but I think it's about 15% Muslim population. I don't know whether, Melvin, you can confirm that. It's about there, 15% Muslim population in Singapore.
Around 17.
17, okay, 15 to 20%, 70%. Now, it doesn't mean that if you were to become halal, you only attract the 17%. All right, you actually will attract more than the 17%, because there are other people who will go with their Muslim friends to patronize your store. Instead of being swayed by your Muslim friend, they need to go to another restaurant or to buy another product. So actually, it can be more than the 17%. It becomes 20, 30%, as attested by some of my clients. I don't want to cite names here, but a number of my clients, when they moved from non-halal to halal, they find that the sales jumped 20%, 30%. Now that's quite amazing, considering the Muslim population is only about 17%. Right? So it might be a strategy for a brand that wants to expand rapidly. Capturing market share is important, and the sort of like a unique niche product is not so critical. So I would advocate seriously consider that. But if pork is a very important thing, I would then say that you shouldn't dilute the brand. Otherwise, you mean nothing to anybody. If you come here, no longer being known for the thing that you're most famous for.
I understand. But it's very interesting, right? Because recently, even like the very famous ramen from Japan, the Ichiran ramen, has made a vegetarian version of it, right?
Yeah.
So you think like, even they themselves, they've been known for, like dishes that contain pork, right? Have managed to make one that's vegetarian, right? So it's quite interesting how brands are actually evolving and really pushing the norms.
Yeah, exactly.
So actually, just one last question before we end the conversation, right? In terms of what you see in the industry, how COVID is shaping the whole food services landscape. If you were to peer into your crystal ball and look at demand and supply, right? Demand-wise, you see certain concepts being more popular than others, right? At least in the context of Asia, in terms of franchise.
Yeah, I think COVID has allowed a lot of people to experience, certain food that they like to eat or would like to eat without physically going to the store. They can just order online, and it's quickly, probably delivered to them. Now, in Singapore, during what we call the circuit breaker period, almost like a partial lockdown, the online order and delivery business just boomed. And I understood from my Japan office as well, past few months, earlier months of the year, it just boomed. But with that relaxation, all right, opening up, then it went down. I would think that during this period of time, that will be that movement, people going to restaurants, and then when sort of like the second wave, that will come, people will pull back and order more online. But nothing will change this trend that goes forward, that people have become a lot more accustomed to ordering online consuming. So this prompts a lot of restaurant chain owners to consider this. Now, do we need to bank our future on opening more and more endless numbers of outlets, talking in the order of thousands or tens of thousands? Or can we augment physical outlets that is sprouted all over the city or the country with a virtual presence, all right? Online order, or with the complement of maybe what we call a cloud kitchen that will support
ghost kitchen, cloud
kitchen, things like that, right? Now, I think a lot of franchisors are considering that omni-channel, combination of both. And I think a franchise system that is able to cater to both will be able to win the future battle for market share. And I have already known some franchisors looking into it. They are preparing for what we call the digital franchise. They are scaling back on physical store rollout. They may have planned to open 200 stores in 2020. Maybe they think that because of this, 2021, they don't even need to make back the 200. They just need to open 50 to 100. The rest of which they will tap on technology, tap on ghost kitchen, to achieve similar kind of outcome. So I think the trend will move in that direction post-COVID.
Okay, interesting. We only got time for that one last question, but really, thank you, John, today. Right, I learned a few things. Number one, franchise is really an option, right, from a set of tools from this gigantic toolbox that a business actually has, and really, it's about mindset that the business must first be prepared to engage with, right? No matter be it understanding, doing market research, or even eventually, fixing your processes, and then finally arriving at adaptation to market. A lot of products don't end up being, suited for individuals, right? 100%. There's always, that 20-30% of time where you have to alter something, like the samurai burger or the ninja burger we find in Singapore nowadays, right? So thank you very much, for joining us today, all viewers, and thank you, John, for your time today. All right, that's all for our conversation. Thank you, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.